Welcome to Cabinet Maker Profit System podcast and YouTube. Hey, my name's Dominic Rubino. Today we're going to be interviewing David Buchsbaum. We're going to be talking about how smart shops are using cabinet vision to grow their business. And we've already completed the interview. I do the intro after, if that makes sense in your production process. But there's a couple of business tools that he and I talk about in the episode. If you want those, as always, shoot me a text message. My cell is 315-903-7853. Let's get to the episode with David. We'll see you on the other side. David Buchsbaum, how are you?
Hello, Dominic. I'm very well today. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you again.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed speaking with you so far, and I'm looking forward to having a nice conversation today.
Yeah. You're smiling and tanned face. I know we were talking about this a minute ago, but you've got a big garden project going on.
Yeah, I try to get a couple hours outdoors every day, if at all possible. Moving rocks and gravel and, just trying to make my little piece of the world a little better than I found it.
Oh, but you do that all over the place. But anyways, you're moving from being a, cabinet vision expert to a landscape designer.
Well, it's definitely a new role for me, landscape designer. You're right. I had to design it, figure out what to do first, but it's definitely different. No tape measure, no, shave a little bit off to make this rock fit better against that rock. It's
you can't do that.
You work with what you got and make it look good, and do a little work, step back, take a look at the big picture, make sure it's all lining up, and then get back down on your knees and do a little more.
Do some more. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fulfilling.
I was just going to say, it's probably really fulfilling. There's nothing like standing up, stretching your back, being just a little bit sore and looking at something going, I built that.
I just did that.
I just did that.
That rock was over there an hour ago, and now it's over here.
Now it's over here.
And it looks a lot better where it is now.
Yeah. Why did that one rock take so long?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Some of them do.
But listen, you're not here for your landscape design expertise, because that project is still work in progress, as we say.
Yeah, that's a one-off too. It's not something I'm planning to repeat either.
Not a career?
So, no, not at this stage of the game.
But a lot of people know you already from your background with cabinet vision.
And so today, a lot of people know me from my background as a cabinet maker, actually, before I started really focusing on cabinet vision, because I've been a member of the CMA for quite a while now. 20 years. I don't even remember when I joined, but that's where a lot of my original clients came from, is that people already were familiar with me as having run a cabinet shop.
From there.
And now I focus on cabinet vision. So it was kind of an easy foot in the door with a few people.
Let's do this, because many people don't know you, especially if they aren't in the same state as you or have gone to the meeting. So I'm going to ask you this question, and it's going to sound a little bit abrupt, a little abrasive, like the rocks that you're picking up. David Buchsbaum, who the heck are you? And how is it that you come to be speaking to all these forward-facing cabinet makers and mill workers all over the world?
Well, that is a bit abrupt. That's a good question. And I can't say it's by design. I ended up here I guess I'm in the middle of a circuitous route to get to where I've gotten so far and wherever I'm going. But I ran a cabinet shop for quite a few years in Atlanta.
You started in Georgia.
I started in Georgia, in the Atlanta area, and that was in 1990. Actually, I incorporated my business in 1992, and I had already been hacking in the garage for about 5 years before that. So that gives you an idea of how long I've been involved in the industry.
Yeah.
And I did high-end residential, mostly residential cabinetry, entertainment centers and built-ins and all that stuff that people like to have in their houses back then, and transitioned into custom closets when I picked up a customer who was focused on closet systems. It was a really good fit because it's very technical. It's easily repeatable. There's a lot of benefits to it. So I never really gave up the custom cabinet aspect of it, but I started incorporating a lot of the closet techniques into the cabinet making to streamline the situation. But our primary focus was cabinets. We did business as Atlanta Closet and Storage Solutions for quite a few years, good 10 years or so, and that website is still up and running. Actually,
did somebody take over the business, or did you?
Well, actually, I'm in partnership with a company that used to be a former competitor, who's now a client of mine. But before they became a client, when I closed my shop in 2018, I approached them because I still had a pretty good stream of business coming in. And so all my leads go to their office, and I get what my next door neighbor calls mailbox money.
That is good money.
It is good money. Yes, I don't complain about that at all. And that was 7 years ago, and it's not as much as it was originally, but it's still coming. So
What
that
comes
was
in? Oh,
one of
good.
the
You left
best
a good
business
name there.
decisions I ever made. And
Yeah.
and it was only possible because I was friendly with the owner at the business. It was my biggest competitor in the Atlanta area, and they're still the biggest closet company in the Atlanta area.
But you guys had
Uh,
a respectful working relationship.
we
You
did
know,
because she's a decent person. I like to think I'm a decent person, and so we respect each other. She approached the industry from a different direction where she had partnered with a manufacturer, a store fixture manufacturer. So all she had to do was focus on sales and marketing and building her team.
right.
And she was very successful at that. I was focusing on trying to get parts to come off the machine correctly.
Yeah,
And
it's
so,
amazing how every business owner has their own take on what the business needs and how the business should run, right?
mhm,
You come from a production background, and she sounds like she came from a different kind of background,
mhm, a
and of
sales
course she has
background,
different
basically.
manufacturing, right?
Right. And a people background. And it's what a huge difference, a different outlook and a different approach to running a business. And, in some ways, I wish I knew now. I wish I knew then what I know now because I would have done it differently. On the other hand, I'm really happy where I am now. And
David,
I needed to learn all that stuff to get here. So,
I say that all the time. I was joking with one of my friends the other day. How come all of my stories start with I used to? But I really wish I'd known, it's so
yeah,
true. At this age, I look back, I'm like, why didn't I know that? Why didn't I do that?
it would be very different. But you know what? I'd still be in Atlanta running a shop with all that dust and heat and getting hotter and more humid every year. And, I
Yeah.
learned what I needed to learn. It was a good experience. And that was a great part. That still is a great partnership. I
Yeah.
still work with them on a regular basis, and
Was
because they,
that
Mhm.
sorry, go ahead.
that because I recognize the value of what I can help them with in cabinet vision because they are totally dependent on cabinet vision.
That's what I was going to ask you. Was that relationship or something about that point in time in business what made you decide to go from building cabinets to helping other people with cabinet vision?
No, actually, that was total coincidence. When I closed my shop in 2018, I mean, long story short, but we ended up here in Colorado a couple years later, right, 6 months into the pandemic, we moved along with our three cats and the whole household and set up shop here or set up
Those
household.
cats
And
will never wear their masks. You know that.
no, they won't.
Yeah.
And I don't mind telling you, it's not easy to find a place to live when you own three cats. You either buy a house or you don't, basically. So that was a long sordid story also. But when I recovered from that, I actually worked remotely for a company that did commercial mill work for about a year. And that really helped round out my experience with cabinet vision because my own personal experience was primarily residential.
Mm,
And this is a shop that did a lot of commercial work using the submittals package. And so I really got a good level of experience with how shops in
sure.
that realm operate and how they use cabinet vision on a regular basis. It's really a lot of focus on the drawings, the submittal drawings to get the information to and from the architect to get everything approved.
Yeah.
So funny little story. Went on vacation for a couple of weeks. I told my boss that I'm going to be out for a couple of weeks, and when I come back, I think I'm worth more money, because after a year, I'd really proven my value.
Right.
So I came back after a couple of weeks, didn't hear from him for a few days. He calls me up, and I'm expecting him to say, "Great, whatever you want, we'll pay it." He says, "Well, the management just announced yesterday they decided to close the whole company."
Well, the whole wow, that's a
And I'm
great way to
like,
say
"Wow, I
no to
didn't
your
realize I
raise.
was so integral that when I asked for more money, it put the whole company out of business." And of course, it was a coincidence. It was
Mm,
at the end of 30 years, a 30-year saga coming to an end just at that time. But that basically put me out of a job. So that's when I started thinking about, I can maybe freelance a little bit. And I had
reinvention.
a friend from Atlanta who's also a cabinet maker, who's
Mm,
basically was my first freelance client. He needed some help with cabinet vision and put a few feelers out there. One thing led to another. My membership in the CMA was very instrumental because there are a lot of forward-thinking business owners in the CMA who use cabinet vision.
yeah.
So that was really helpful. And I have learned so much in the last 3 years. It's amazing how much more, how much exponential. I was explaining this to a prospective client I had a conversation with this morning that now that I'm really focused primarily on the software as opposed to I'm focused on the business and the software as a part of that. Now I'm primarily focused on the software.
Right.
My eyes have opened to just what it's capable of, even
I
more so than I'd already been using it for 14, 15 years before then. And
but
I
you've
kind of
you've
knew, but
unlocked new layers of it.
I didn't know. And it constantly amazes me how little, I don't want to say how little, how big a gulf there is between where business owners and users of the software think they are and where they could be, just
It's
because they don't know what they don't know.
yeah. The reason that you're here is that question. I mean, we've got lots of clients in the cabinetry and millwork space, and your
Hmm.
name keeps popping up. And
Well,
so I
I'm sad to say there's not a lot of people like me out there. On the one
yeah,
hand, I'm on the forum constantly, and this seems
right.
like every month somebody's saying, "Yep, I'm going to go out on my own. I'm looking for clients. I'm available to do this, this, and the other." And I'm sure some of them are very capable, and everybody's capable in certain areas more so than others. I've heard an equal number of stories from owners, people who are looking for people like that who say, this guy said he could do everything and he can't. It turns out, after 3 months and thousands of dollars and a lot of wasted time and energy, that person couldn't do what they said they could do.
You mean you're talking about somebody who's a drafter or an engineer?
Someone who's calling themselves an expert in cabinet vision, not just to go and
Oh,
do
okay. You're talking
drafting
about the
or
software
engineering, but
itself, right? Okay.
someone who can go and actually help work on the software. A
Yeah,
consultant, essentially, someone who's presenting themselves as, I can help you improve your use of the software, as opposed to just coming to work there and
yeah.
using the software every day to produce product. That's where a lot of people are with the program. And what I find is a lot of people, and this has been reported over and over again on the forums, that shop owners entertain prospective employees. The prospective employee says, I've been using Cabinet Vision for 10 years. I know that program. I'm an quote
But to
unquote
go back to your
expert.
previous point, there's
Yeah,
so
but
much that doesn't get unlocked until you really get into the
until
system,
you
right?
really get into it. And what you find is that people are trained to use the program a certain way to produce a certain product with a certain process, and they are very well versed in using that process to produce that product.
That product, yeah.
But they've never had to get into the settings and the creating
Do
materials
you
and material models and writing UCSs and customizing reports and
hold
really
on, hold on.
understanding.
You and I talked about UCSs before, but let's assume
Hmm.
not everybody knows what that is.
Sure.
What's a UCS?
UCS, which a lot of people misspell the acronym, but it's a user created standard. And it's
Okay.
basically a macro.
A
It's
little
a
macro. Yeah.
it's a macro. It's a little bit of code, and it can be just a few lines of code or it could be thousands of lines of code. It's a little computer program, and it's a very awkward, kind of clunky little computer program that has a lot of similarities with BASIC, which was perfect for me because in high school
You took basic?
I took a basic programming language.
That's
And this
it. I
was
know how old you are then, because
1978.
you're the
So
same as me.
1978. So there weren't a lot of schools in the country, that had a computer lab at that point, and it was done
Yeah.
with roll tape with holes in it. Uh, there was no save the file on your computer. It was printed to a roll of paper with holes in it. But
So why
uh,
let's go back to this though. Why do you because everybody listening is using some sort of system, but most
yeah,
people are using cabinet vision. I know there are others, and we're not here to talk about the
right.
verses. We'll do that in other ways.
Hmm.
But do we just get stuck in a loop where we just need to build this kind of cabinet so cabinet vision gets us where we need to get, and so we don't look at the other features and functions?
That's a really good point. It's not a matter. It's not so much that we don't look at it; it's that we're not exposed to it. And I had that
Oh, what
myself.
do you
So
mean we're not?
when I went and bought Cabinet Vision, they said you're going to need training, and I'm like, no, I don't want to pay. At that point, it was $100 an hour. They're like, no, you need. We won't sell it to you unless you buy 10 hours of training. You're going to need that. And sure, of course, I needed it. It got
Right.
me barely functional to where I could start using the software. At least I knew where all the buttons, what the different buttons meant.
Yeah.
But it was, and after about 6 weeks, I could put a job together and kind of know where all the settings were. But it was 2 years before I really felt like I would say it was a solid 6 months, and I was put in it was a pressure situation. I was trying to cut parts with this software, and so I was literally
Make money. You're trying to make
I
money
was
with the
using it,
software.
trying to make money. I was trying to use it
Yeah.
to get jobs to the machine, not just to learn the software. So I was on the forum for an hour or two every day for 6 months, and after about 6 months, I said, you know what? I finally feel like I have the confidence that if something isn't working right, I know where to look for the problem. I mean,
I
that's the
know
first
where to
step.
look for the problem, but
I know where to look for.
okay,
I
you
know
know how
where
to.
to try to
I was looking
investigate to
for you to
figure
say I
out
know where to
what's
look for
wrong.
the answer, but you're saying
Right.
you at that point you knew how to dig back far enough to say the problem is here. It's
Coming
showing
from
up.
here. Yes,
Right.
right. The answer is not right. It's okay. It's obvious we're not getting the right output. Where do we look to find the problem to fix it?
Okay.
And it took about 6 months of using the software every day
So let's
just to feel confident that I could do that.
let's do this for the sake of the audience out there. Let's say somebody out there, they're running a $4 million shop already,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So we could picture that kind of shop, and they're not getting the output they need. They call you or somebody like you, and I know there's
Mm-hmm.
it's limited. This is why you're
Mm-hmm.
here.
Right.
They what are the typical things, like what are the rocks you go look under, and what do you find?
Mm. So most people contact me for one of two reasons. One is the obvious one is that they're still basically, I don't want to say stuck, but they're still using an older version of the software because
And they haven't upgraded to
they
the new.
haven't upgraded to the current version, and now they need to. They're bringing in a new machine. The Cabinet Vision won't write a post processor for their new machine on the old piece of software, or they need to buy more licenses. Their current version's been sunsetted. So they have kind of a bigger problem where they need to migrate from version 11 or wherever they are to version 23 or 24 or
Yeah,
25.
a big
And
jump.
that can be a big package. It doesn't necessarily have to be that painful. It just depends on how customized their setup is. Usually there's a few sticking points we can fix. Some things don't work and we fix them, they're okay. And usually that leads into a bigger process of let's use this as an opportunity to clean up our database and get rid of the old baggage. And the you don't know, but the engineer, when they start a job, they have to select the construction method, the material schedule. And
The
if they have to
materials and
choose from
methods. Yeah,
120 settings, it's going to take more time and there's going to be more likely to be an error than if they only have to choose from four options.
right.
And what happens is people over the years get this, they create a new construction method or a new material schedule for one job that's really unique. And they don't realize they could have just changed it in the job and not created a whole new material schedule
Yeah, it's
that's now
interesting
on their
because
system for
efficiencies,
years.
though, that's the place you find the efficiencies. And so many of us, especially the people that listen to the show, are bought into lean or continuous
Hmm.
improvement in
Hmm.
general. There's
In
on a
general.
scale of 1 to 10, some people are moderately interested and some people are absolutely bought in. But in
Hmm.
general, we want to find ways to do things the most effective way that we
Right.
can in the most timely fashion. And we forget about office operations. We forget about everything
Absolutely.
before the CNC, which is what you're talking about.
Absolutely. And that's
Yeah.
something I was been thinking about over the last few weeks, since we started talking about having this conversation, is that if you're on a big part of lean is the process of continuous improvement.
Yeah.
And if you don't have someone in your organization who's tasked with continuously improving your use of cabinet vision, you're missing out on a big opportunity
Yeah. We're
because
channeling the voice of Brad Cairns and Paul Akers right now,
exactly, I
right?
know he
Yeah.
would be behind this 100%. And there's a real catch 22 because most business owners, when you reach a level your business is doing $5-10 million a year, I can almost guarantee you that the business owner is not using cabinet vision every day. They
Well, they
have
shouldn't be.
they shouldn't be. They
Yeah.
can't be. I mean, I got to about $1 million a year and I was still detailing most of the jobs and engineering it. And I had reached my limit. I mean, honestly, it's one of the reasons I had to close my shop
Just
is that I
life
couldn't
was.
I couldn't pass it off and delegate to other people.
Yeah.
And I've talked to people who purchased a business. I mean, here's an owner who's tasked with making this company successful. They're doing $10 million a year or better, and this owner has never actually used cabinet vision themselves. So they're totally in the dark in terms of what the possibilities are. And the idea that somebody in that organization or somebody that organization is associated with should be continuously working on the software to make it faster,
Yeah.
more streamlined, fewer mistakes, easier for the designers, easier, and not just for the people using the software, but you can do things differently in the software that makes it easier in the shop. It makes it easier for your installers
Yeah.
that streamline the whole operation.
Hey, are you frustrated because you're just about to order another truckload of t-shirts that you want to give to everybody in the shop that says we do it right because we do it twice? If that's the case, don't order the t-shirts. But I do have a tool for you that's going to help you figure out where the challenge is, where the problem is, and then aim directly at it. It's something we deal with all the time as business coaches. Find the root cause of the problem. Well, if you've got what we call wasted efforts as a profit leak, right? So you've got rework, or maybe you've got too many people touching a piece of paper too much, or maybe things aren't coming out of engineering fast enough. I don't know what your particular situation is, but you already do. Why don't you take this self-assessment? You can do it yourself. You can do it with your estimating manager. You can do it with your business partner. You can do it alone. However you choose to do it, once we send it off to you, it's yours. But if you want to fix the wasted efforts in your business because it is a profit leak, shoot me a text message and I'll send it on back to you. My cell phone number is 315-903-7853. Just say wasted efforts and off it goes. I know the answer is going to be different for every situation, but we're typically the places that people have I would call it bloat. You know, so I've got bloat
Mhm.
right now just on my computer. I have so many images on the
Right.
desktop.
Right.
There's bloat. It's just taking up
Yeah.
memory. They're pictures I'm never going to use again or
Hmm.
screen captures.
Right.
So let's assume that that exists across other softwares as well. If I've
Absolutely.
got that two, three, $4 million shop and
Hmm.
I'm looking for bloat in my cabinet vision, where am I typically going to find it?
It's going to be in all of your uh, manager settings. So
I was going to
your
say the
materials,
settings.
your
Yeah.
material schedules, your materials themselves. Every time you bring in a setup package, instead of automatically integrating them, if that setup package includes materials, instead of integrating it into the material manager with categories and such, how would Cabinet Vision know where do you want to, how you want to organize those materials? It creates a new category with the name of that setup package, which then has like 6 different subcategories to get to the actual data.
Oh
And I've
no.
seen people who have imported 20, 30, 50 setup packages and not done any material management or manager and material catalog management. So you go to look for something on their system like, well, I think it was in this setup package. Maybe it was in that setup package. Maybe it was in the other one. And you can do a search. If you know the name of it, you can search for it. But the limitation in Cabinet Vision, when you find something in the material manager by searching for it, it doesn't tell you what category it was in. So you still don't really know
Oh,
where it was.
it doesn't give you the
If you
file
want to
name and
find
path.
it to look, see
Right.
what else is in there, it doesn't solve that problem. So that's just one example. And the other one I mentioned is the assembly methods. And a lot of people are still, in previous versions of the software, there were not a lot of options within the assembly method. So if you wanted
Mm,
one simple change, like you want the grain of the back of the cabinet to be vertical versus horizontal, you would make a copy of your construction method. And then the one setting that determines the direction of the back, you would change that one setting. So now you have 2 construction methods with one setting different. Well, now
right.
you also want to do your finished ends a little differently in some cases than others. Well, now you have to make a copy of each of those construction methods and change that one other thing. So now you have 4 construction methods because you have 2 different options. And then when you add a third one, now every time you add another option, you're doubling. So people have 16, 32, 100 construction methods. Well, not too long ago, they introduced the idea of conditions in your construction method. So now you can automate a lot of that. Your horizontal, vertical back. You can have a little sidebar attribute that we literally just press the button
Well,
on each
so let's
cabinet and it
let's dig
changes the
on that
grain
for a second.
direction.
What would the impact be? Let's talk about it in the way that owners want to hear it, time and money.
Yeah,
Let's
so
just
it's
money would be tougher, but time. How much
right.
time am I going
Time.
to save just by going
Well,
to
what it
conditions?
comes down to is that Cabinet Vision is, among the people who use it, it has a notorious reputation for being click happy. There are so many mouse clicks that you have to
Right.
do to get to the part of the program where you need to click on that one thing. And a lot of times, just a point in a really good example is that people have all these cabinets or assemblies in their catalogs, and they're all organized in subcategories and folder. Particular in the closet system, people they want to organize everything by height, and then by width, and then by depth, and by and then by function. So you have all these duplicates, and the only difference is they're a different size. And so they don't realize that when the designer or the engineer has to find that one object that's the certain size, they have to go to the master catalog. Then they have to choose the subcategory that has the right part type. Then they have to choose the height that corresponds to the height they want. Then they have to choose the depth that corresponds to the depth that they
Right.
want. Then they have to find the object in that 4 levels down or 5 levels down in the catalog.
Yike.
And you just don't realize you have to do that for every
And
single object to build the job. That adds
and so
up.
how much time if we were to change that, are we talking about saving 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or half an hour per run of cabinets?
It really depends on the job. It's so different for every shop, but some of these basic things that can be streamlined, it does. If it adds up to 5 minutes a job and you have an engineer who's producing 5 or 6 jobs a day, all of a
It
sudden
adds
you're
up
talking about hours
fast.
every month just
Yeah.
to choose the right object out of the catalog.
So I, I'm going to say this, and it's also going to sound abrupt, but I'm saying it on purpose. If somebody comes to you and says, "Look, I hate cabinet vision," what's probably the issue behind that? Or we
It's
hate
it
it, or my people
well,
hate it.
a lot I don't, I will have to say I haven't had people say that. I haven't
I'm
had
trying to be
people with
abrupt. Yeah, I know.
such a visceral reaction, but I do have a lot of people with frustrations, and I have people who, and that was the other thing I didn't follow up on the rest of that question. A lot of people come to me because they need to make an upgrade, but the other half of clients come to me because they have a problem that they can't solve or it's cost them money. I had one recently where
Mm,
it's a closet system, and if the unit on the left is deeper, so the partition on the left is deeper than the one on the right, or the section itself. So you've got a section between two partitions. Usually everything's the same depth, but let's say the partition on the left is deeper because there's a deeper section next to it. Well, now he needs to use an inset hinge there instead of an overlay hinge.
Right.
And his engineer didn't catch that. And so they didn't have the right hinges when they went out to the job, and that became a callback. Well, that's not the end of the world. They didn't produce the job incorrectly, but it was an unnecessary callback because something that could have been caught. So he had me write a little UCS so that the engineer can just click on the left sidebar and say, change the left hinge, instead of having to go into the job, click on the door, click on the hinges, go look up another hinge. It's literally, we changed it to one mouse click. So it's
Yeah.
not completely automatic yet. And he's still in version 2023. In the newer versions, there's now parameters that you can check the depth of the adjacent cabinet. So when he's ready to move up to 2024, 2025, or who knows, it might be 2027 by then, we can probably automate that completely to where if that cabinet has a deeper cabinet next to it, it'll automatically get the right hinge on that door. And that's the sort of thing that will, save him hours going forward in the future. And so it's worth, it brings up another point that I think is worth mentioning. And I've seen this happen fairly frequently. And it ties into the idea of lean, is that people get burned by something. And so they add a step into their process to make sure that never happens again. And what they realize is that adding that step into the process has now made every single job take longer. The engineer now has to check every single job to make sure that thing doesn't happen again. It only
Right.
happened once in 10 years. It's probably not going to happen again for 10 years. But every single job now is going to take 5 minutes longer. And when you add that up, the total cost of that is way more than if that one error pops up every 10 years. Especially
Yeah,
when
that's
you
a good point.
compound that, and people have an 80-point checklist that they have to go through on every job because, there are 40 experiences that they want to learn from and make sure they never repeat again.
Yeah. So how can then, you're making me think about rework and callbacks. How would I use cabinet vision to reduce rework, reduce callbacks? Is it a tool issue or is it a people issue? And by people, I mean the people in our company.
Well, callbacks, my experience is that's mostly a process issue. Most callbacks are because the installers didn't have what they needed on the job. Something wasn't detailed correctly, or something didn't come out on the reports in a way that it made it onto the truck correctly. So for instance, this one there, they needed to use a different hinge in this situation. I would learn from that experience and have the installers keep a dozen of those hinges on the truck, the inset hinges that come up once in a while.
Right.
And that way, if something like this happens, I mean, yeah, we made it easier for the engineer to fix it if the engineer notices it, but what if the engineer doesn't catch it? It's still not fully automatic at this point. So you put a backstop in, you have the installers make sure they have a few of every type of hinge on the truck. So, every one of I lived that situation, especially in the closet business. We did 300 plus installations a year.
Yeah, you're
And
doing tons, right?
I struggled to get the employees to really comprehend just how much a callback costs. When you drop that belt rack piece on the floor and I have to order another one, the piece only cost $5, right? But we have to get it from the supplier to our shop. Somebody has to go and take that thing to the machine and drill the holes in it and pound the pins in it. Well, we already did that 2 weeks ago before you dropped it on the floor. And now we have to drive it out to the customer's house and install it,
And that's
clean it up because their house has been, the installation was done 2 weeks ago. They don't realize that's a $250 hit to the bottom line.
Yeah, at least.
Because that
That's the
$5
origin of
part
the
dropped
go
on
back
the floor.
report. We have something called the go back report, and that we had to figure out what it cost so that we could have intelligent conversations with the team to say,
Yeah.
look, a 1 hour job's not a 1 hour job. Because the person looking at you says, what's an hour, buddy? You're like, no, it's not an hour.
Oh, if you have to go back for 5 minutes, it's only 5 minutes, right? No, it's the fact that you had to go back that is the cost.
And we're not doing the next job, and that's holding back this. And now you're stuck in
Your
traffic.
installer could have been installing another $5,000 job today. Instead, they're putting in this $50 belt rack that should have been installed.
And I noticed you're holding a Dunkin' Donuts in your hand. Did you stop? Yeah.
Right.
Right. The 5 minutes is
don't have the So the employees often don't have that appreciation. I think a big part of lean is getting the employees, getting the whole staff to buy into the fact that what benefits the company benefits them.
Yeah. So, right. So let's go back here then. because I want to make sure there's some learning lessons. So I want you to think
Mm-hmm.
for a second about a company that's using cabinet vision to the pinnacle.
Mm-hmm.
They're the highest, they're the best at using cabinet vision that you've ever seen. And then I want you to think about somebody who's not using it very well at all. What are those differences? If you could, is there three big differences there?
I'll tell you what the big difference is that at that first company, there is somebody whose job depends upon their using cabinet vision to the best point, best
Their own
place
job.
they
It's
can.
their day,
Not
every day.
necessarily their whole job, but it's a significant part of their job. They have a dedicated cabinet vision expert, an engineer who can create things that don't exist yet, solve problems that other people can't solve, write custom reports, create materials, create material models, add machining automatically. If they want to add a special lazy Susan insert, for instance, that person can build that in the job and have the machining automatically added to the cabinets. Every time they pop that lazy Susan in, the holes are all in the right places. So the installers don't even have to drill a hole. No sawdust on the job at all. So they have somebody who's not just able to do that, but is proactively figuring out, hey, I see something going on and I think I can make that better
Right.
because I can change something in cabinet vision I keep getting the same question from the shop. Like once a week, somebody's coming in and there's something not clear. I can figure out how to change that and make it more clear to eliminate that problem.
That's
Whereas the
interesting.
other shop very likely has somebody who knows how to use cabinet vision. Like I mentioned before, they've been trained to do it a certain way, and that was the extent of their training. And they don't realize or don't have the aptitude or don't have the time to go on YouTube and look for cabinet vision videos. There is a wealth of information out
There's a ton. Yeah. There's a ton.
there.
But those videos are boring.
Well, you know what?
I'm just parroting. I'm telling you the things I hear, right?
That's not the person you want in that role then.
It's so interesting you
Because
say
I
that.
don't find those videos boring.
It's so interesting you say that because as you were answering the last question about somebody who heard who was observing how a job went,
Mm-hmm.
lazy Susan example, no sawdust on the job site. I
Mm-hmm.
was thinking that's a certain behavioral style. It's a certain personality. And I was going to ask, are you familiar with behavioral styles or, Myers-Briggs or DISC? Oh, you are.
I'm familiar with them. That's
Oh,
about the
okay.
limit of my
Oh, okay.
familiarity is that
Okay.
I'm aware of them and I know what style I've been categorized into
Do you
in the
remember what
past.
style it was?
Is the C words the letter C mean
C,
anything
yeah.
to you?
And by the way, folks, C is not the bad word of C.
Right.
C is conscientiousness, a
There
very
you go.
detail-oriented person.
Exactly.
And it's funny because we introduced the concept of Myers-Briggs in the
Mm-hmm.
foreman training that we deliver. And foremen and leaders and owners have really never heard of this, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
ninja level, ninth level tool for understanding people's behavioral styles. Do
Yes.
you mind if I give you an example that has nothing to do with
Not at all.
cabinetry
Please,
engineering?
please
I
do.
think I think it's a good one though because it's going to help draw a picture here.
This is a topic I'm very interested in. So
Okay,
yes, go right ahead.
so we're business coaches, right? We deal with
Mhm.
all businesses, especially in the construction trades and all different situations, family business, all that stuff.
Mhm.
And so quite often we'll go into a business as we start to work with them and a problem appears and it's an accounts receivable problem. Okay. So they're having problem collecting money. And so we start to ask questions. Is it a systems process? Is it a people process? And so we start to ask about the person running accounts receivable, usually a young lady who's calling people asking for money. And let's say her name is Cindy. I'll say, well, tell me about Cindy. And all of our coaches do the same thing, right? Tell me,
Mhm.
Cindy's nice. She's great. Greatest person in the world. She's so easy to get along with her. So she runs our social committee. She's in charge of all the birthday cakes once a month. She makes everybody gets a birthday. And you're nodding your head, right?
Mhm.
And
She's too nice for that
she's
job.
too nice for accounts receivable. So
Yeah.
what happens is she makes the call to Acme and says, hey, your account's a little bit
Mhm.
overdue. You're 30 days now. I'd hate to see you guys go to 45. And they go, Cindy, so nice to hear from you. How are you doing? And they play her.
Right.
And if
Right.
you go and ask Cindy later, she says, oh, I just talked to them. They're
Everything's
good.
great.
They're going to pay.
Yeah.
Right now,
Everything's great. Yep.
everything's great. So
Mhm.
she's got a style, a behavioral style that's called an
Mhm.
influencer or an
Yeah.
I. She's
Yeah.
very personable. You
Right.
don't want that person as your accounts
Yes.
receivable clerk,
Yeah.
right? Or person.
Mhm.
And so that's why I was thinking the same thing that you thought there is I think
Yeah.
we need to make sure as owners, as leaders, that we're attracting people to this position who are very detail oriented, but also great communicators. I'll stop
Yes.
there for a second. What's your
Mhm.
let's banter about that for a sec.
Absolutely. And I think that's a very important point to make because I just, again, had this conversation with someone this morning that purchased a business. The person that they thought was going to help them with cabinet vision turns out wasn't all that he said he was going to be.
Yeah.
They let him go. They're drifting. They need to know what to do.
Drifting.
They
Yeah.
have a young fella who seems promising, but of course it'll take time to get him trained. And his question was, am I better off hiring somebody with like CAD and computer skills and trying to teach them the cabinet making part, or am I better off hiring somebody with cabinet making experience and trying to teach them how to use cabinet vision?
Great questions,
And
actually. But
I said, first of all, if you are in a position where you have to make that decision, you are so lucky that you have two candidates with different backgrounds and you get to choose which one you want to give the opportunity to. Most people don't have that luxury. So
yeah,
first of all, but he really only had the one candidate, and fortunately it was the right answer. And I said, go with the person who has the computer skills and the computer aptitude and really wants to sit in front of a computer all day.
right. Because remember, this question started by me saying, but those videos are boring.
Mm-hmm.
I want to hire the person, guy or gal, who
Yeah,
wants to dig into that issue and say, I found the setting. It's 6
exactly.
clicks back.
Yeah,
The problem that we have is because the master settings are wrong. That's who I want. You don't
right.
want me doing it. I'm the wrong guy.
Yeah, I wouldn't hire you to watch those videos, but see, I don't find those videos boring.
Take
I'm
that
like,
as a compliment,
oh,
by the way.
this is what's that?
I take that as a compliment.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Be aware of where your skills are and don't try to please everybody all the
Yeah.
time.
But you want that systematic, detail oriented person who really finds personal enjoyment and challenge in ticking boxes and data analysis. And so the
And who
bigger
has the
picture,
computer aptitude,
yeah,
because
of course,
someone with that aptitude, you can teach them the ins and outs of cabinet making. You can put them out in the shop for a couple hours a day in the different departments,
and
him
they'll
or
learn
her,
stuff.
and they'll learn what they need to learn. But you can't take someone who can build cabinets and use the table saw and is comfortable in the shop and expect them to be that comfortable in front of the computer all day.
Yeah. I'm going to,
And I think a big aspect of what a lot of people don't realize, and a lot of business owners don't realize, are the ones who are disconnected from the use of cabinet vision, and you touched on it earlier with the UCSs, it's computer programming. It's not woodworking. I don't
I'm
sharpen
glad
my
you've
hand
said that.
planes every
Yeah.
morning to go start working on cabinet vision. It's all about logic and computer code, not all about, but when you're writing a
No, but it's order
UCS,
of operations. It's if
exactly,
then.
math, algebra, logic, trigonometry in some cases, you need someone who's
Mhm.
comfortable with math, comfortable with algebra, has a certain, at least the ability and the aptitude to learn computer logic and computer programming, because that's a big part of it. I help people on the forums constantly where they're learning how to use UCSs and they write things. I look at them like that just blatantly isn't going to work, because you're literally saying, if something is true, then do all this. And then 3 lines later, you're saying, if this thing is false, then do that. And I'm like, well, you'll never get to that third line because the previous condition, the rest of the lines only happen if that thing was true. And now you're trying to do something if it was false. They don't get just the most basic logic.
The last 13 seconds of you explained everything about how to find the right cabinet vision person. Just the
Well, what
last.
I tell people, and this came up on the CMA forum again a few days ago, and I told the person this morning, and I never went out to try to hire a cabinet vision person, but the best advice I've read anywhere is to find a technical school with a CAD program
Right.
and find either someone who's about to graduate or a recent graduate, make friends with the professors there, try to
Sure.
find the best students with the best aptitude, because if you can get someone who has put themselves or gone through a CAD program, has the desire and the aptitude and the willingness to sit in
Right.
front of a computer and do computer. I mean, to me, it's like
And
playing video games all day. I'm building stuff I'd much rather play with cabinet vision than do something in virtual reality where, it doesn't exist in the real world. When I do stuff on cabinet vision, well, sure, it's all in the computer, but it's being transferred into something that's going to get built in the real
yeah,
world.
I want to take this brilliant piece of insight that you've given us, because right now we're not even talking about cabinet vision. We're just talking about the programming
Mm-hmm.
of a specific tool to help us produce our products and fabricate what we
Mm-hmm.
need to.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to remind the owners out there, when we talk about building your team on purpose, this is exactly what David and I are talking about. Run the ad when you're looking for a person who is going to have that behavioral style, that way of seeing the world, who's
The soft
specifically going to
skills.
do this. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because you can actually build your team on purpose. You can now, I bet you we're going to change how everybody
Right.
hires their accounts receivable person
Well,
just by
and
that
it's
story.
and you know, a related topic is because I went through this myself. I'm thinking like, well, I'm only going to hire 3 or 4 people. I want to hire superstars. You know, I only want to hire rock stars, the best person in the industry in every position. You can't find those people unless you run the best company in the position. Google can hire those people. My son works for Google because he's got those chops, right? He's not going to
Does
come
he
work
actually
for
work for
me.
Google?
He actually is a software engineer at
Oh,
Google.
there you
Yeah.
go.
He made more
Apple
money out of
tree.
college, literally straight out of college. He was making more money than I was making after 30 years in the cabinet industry
Incredible. And I'm
because
sure
he
you're
has
proud of
that
him.
aptitude and the intelligence, and he can go do that.
Great.
But
Great.
the reality is most people have to hire average people.
Yeah.
And so you want to find people who are going to excel in that position, not because they're the best in the industry, because they're really well suited for that
Mhm.
position. And you can train them and tailor the position and tailor the organization to help make them successful.
Yeah.
If you can
It's
hire a rock star, that's great. But you're more likely to hire someone who's pretty good.
yeah. Let's
And if you match their innate skill set with the needs of the job, they're going to be better than pretty good. They're going to thrive.
one of my clients quoted me back to me, and he's a CMA member, and he's probably listening to this, so he's going to
Hmm.
laugh. I said, instead of trying to hire a unicorn, let's just hire a horse and slap a horn on it later. And I may have heard that from somewhere
Yeah.
else, but
Part of that fake it till you make it
yeah,
routine. You
you
know, if
know,
you hire someone who is innately well suited for the job, they'll grow into the position.
yeah,
But if
but they
it's
have to
not a
be
good fit from
suited.
the beginning,
Yeah,
it's going to be a fight.
it has to be a detail oriented person with that computer background
Hmm.
and also, the willingness to dig into these problems and
Right.
do it.
Right.
All right, this has been incredible, and we went off onto some tangents, but interesting because we went to people, even though we started on software. What
Well,
about
yeah, I mean, the truth is that's the most important aspect of any organization in my book.
yeah?
The software is amazing, but if you don't have the right people to run it, you're not going to get everything out of it that you're entitled to, that you could.
So when you have owners of shops who have somebody else doing their cabinet vision work, what's the tools you consistently see them using? The business tools. Are they having meetings? Are they doing written memo notes? What is it they're doing that's different?
Honestly, I'm not in the loop well enough. I do all my work remotely,
Okay.
and so I've never met most of my clients. The ones that I have met, it's because of our previous experiences at the CMA.
CMA.
It hasn't been since I started focusing on cabinet vision consulting. So I'm going to have to defer.
That's
I
okay.
know communication is incredibly important
Yeah.
and
Well,
empowering.
just that's what I was hoping you were going to say is communication. So if I
Yeah,
hire somebody and I entrust them to be running the cabinet division, but I don't go and meet with them and debrief with them and uh, have some critical numbers that we're tracking, then I can't expect excellence out of that department.
right. Well, and if you don't make it plain to them that you're expecting to see evidence of their improving the use of cabinet vision on a regular basis,
Mm,
then you probably won't. If you don't make it clear that you need that, then
yeah,
they're not going to be focused on fulfilling that. You know, what gets measured gets improved.
yeah, it's the same everywhere.
Yeah.
David, just incredible today. I really appreciate it. If somebody wants to find you, I mean, first, if people haven't found you already, they've lurked on your website, but just for the sake of it, can you tell people how to find you if they have questions or want to learn
Yeah,
more?
for sure. Chances are, if you Google me, I'll come up. But my website is the best way to find me. It's beaconsolutions.llc. So beacon like the lighthouse, solutions like that's what I try to offer people, and .llc.
Yeah,
And my email is david@beaconsolutions.llc. So there's all the information about my services and what I offer there on the website, and you can contact me
yeah,
if you have any questions.
yeah. And I know a number of my clients. I say my clients amongst all of our coaches use
Hmm.
you. So that's a data reference, but not giving any endorsements. We don't give
Sure.
endorsements, but I do know quite a few companies who are already using you
Well,
for
I'm,
that.
I'm sure it's not just me, but what I find is that people contact me for a specific need, and then when I tell them, I just try to plant the seed, like, well, I can fix that one problem you came to me for, but I can actually take one step further and completely automate it for you.
What?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
they'll be like, wait a minute, how is that? And I'll show them how I can just add a sidebar attribute or even just make it happen behind the scenes. And then
yeah,
that'll kind of I do that once or twice, they'll start thinking, wait a minute, maybe there's other things we can improve. What else can we automate? It's one of those
Again,
things
continuous
of
improvement. But we
exactly.
all think continuous improvement happens after the CNC. By that I mean the floor. But I want to
Hmm.
urge everybody, and David, you and I talked about it. There's improvements that can be made in the office before the CNC in your
Hmm.
total process, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we tend to overlook it, but there's a lot of meat on that
Yeah.
bone.
Oh, Brad will tell you all about that. I remember reading one of his articles. He was talking about how there was some bottleneck and they couldn't identify it. And they finally went into the shop, and the person who actually released the jobs to the shop had all the jobs stacked up in a drawer in their desk for some reason. It's like nobody even knew what was in the queue waiting to be sent out to the shop,
Right.
just
That
because of this one person's process. It didn't work correctly with the
yeah.
flow, and they didn't realize that the engineering was the bottleneck.
Yeah. I I won't comment on that, but yes, we hear that from time to time. But
Yeah.
I'm not knocking engineering. It's just that we always, because we grow up on the shop floor and we know the machines, we know the nuances of the machines, we can intuitively see the flow of product through the floor.
Hmm.
We forget what I call before the CNC.
Right. The
Forget it.
front end. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That all
What
every aspect of your job can be optimized.
yeah,
And the
Brad and
other thing
Lynn call it.
something you mentioned earlier that I wanted to really emphasize is that aspect of communication. So I actually looked up before we started today. I looked up what are the qualities of an engineer? Like what how do you define an engineer? Of course, there's all different types of engineers, civil and biological, all this stuff. But the one I liked the most, it basically said there were three aspects, and one of them was communication. It basically says someone who uses creativity and intelligence to solve problems and is able to communicate that with the other people involved. Because if you can't communicate, I mean, it's just like someone who invents the greatest mousetrap in the world. If they can't market it, nobody's ever going to find out about it. They'll
Yeah.
never sell a single one except to their mom and dad.
I was just going to say stay in their mom's basement.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you can't communicate either the solution or if you can't understand the problem, the communication works both ways. If you can't listen well enough to understand the problem and then communicate either the solution or the steps or whatever needs to be communicated in that moment, you're not going to make it as an engineer.
Yeah.
So it's not just the aptitude and the computer skills and the math ability, but the writing skills and the written communication skills to be able to communicate professionally and
The people
effectively.
skills.
The people
That's
skills.
and that's the difficulty here, because you and I've now laid out a path that we need somebody who's very detail oriented, but
Hmm.
we don't need a detail oriented person who builds a shell around themselves and doesn't want to talk to anybody. They still have to be
Right.
a great
Right.
communicator.
Who holds a grudge or is unpleasant or, talks down to people or, has that attitude that they're better than everybody else because they understand what's going on in the computer.
Mm,
It takes a well-rounded person.
yeah,
It does. And that's why we're so few and far between.
unicorns.
Sorry to say. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's where the training comes in. The third, you either hire somebody who already has the skills or you train somebody with the skills.
I have a feeling you and I could continue this conversation for a long time. So maybe we'll do that. We'll have you back again in the future. We'll dig into another part of the whole engineering and cabinetry question. But I really appreciate you taking the time to come here. I know it's taken time out of your day, and I appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure. People don't know me as a talkative person, but when you start talking about cabinet vision and shop, running the shop and
Or rock
efficiency and
gardens,
business
if we ask you
management,
about your
or
rock
or
garden.
a few, I have very very deep knowledge in a very few narrow areas.
Yeah.
And once you get me talking about them, it's sometimes hard to get me to stop. So I'd be more than happy to come back and continue
All
the
right.
conversation.
All right. Well, thank you, David. Have a great day. We'll have you back again.
Thanks, Dominic. Sounds good. Take
Thanks.
care.
Bye bye. Well, David, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. I love the insights and the little tips that we were talking about there, how top shops are using cabinet vision properly in their system, and shops that haven't used it properly or maybe are struggling, what those differences are. I always like that kind of conversation so we can see the comparison between the two. One of the things we talked about here was foreman training, because you and I got off on a tangent about behavioral styles. That is more important than you might think, folks. Literally, you can build the perfect team from scratch on paper, before you even go to the market to hire people. And when you're doing your interviews, to make sure you've got the right mix of people doing the right kind of jobs to get the right kind of output. And it's not magic. It's not luck that builds you a great team. You have to do it on purpose. Anyways, if you ever want more information about foreman training or any of the other things we do here, or you heard David and I talk about something on the show that you want to download, just shoot me a text. My cell phone number is 315-903-7853. Now, remember, all of this podcast, the YouTube channel, all of this is an excuse. It's a pretty obvious excuse. All I'm hoping for one day is you and I have a chance to sit back and have a drink, coffee or something else across a table like real humans. And maybe we'll get a chance to do that. David talked about the CMA. I was just presenting at the CMA. I met a bunch of great people. We did a cross-border CMA event and 2 days with each other. It was just fantastic. That's what I live for. I look forward to that more than you ever know. We'll see you on the next episode, folks. Have a great day.